Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian if you're new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, Soul Nation. You're smashing and sexy today, and you know it. That's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free random compliments at the start of these videos. Today we're going through the queue. Today we're talking about the state of the game as it relates to the queue times, especially as the errors that have persisted through this game from early access and even till today. Now, last night, this morning, depending on your time zone, where you are in the world, they rolled out a patch. I covered this in my video yesterday, so if you hadn't seen that, just note, fixes were rolling out to address the core issues, the 2002s, the 3003s, the 4000, whatever error number you've been experiencing. Hopefully, ultimately, that is going to be addressed. So I've been testing it out all day, just kind of letting myself log in, log out. How are the queues? How are they responding? And as the day has gone on, obviously the queue time has gone up to the point where I had seen queues in the past over this weekend where I was not able to actually get through the queue and into the game because I kept getting errors. That is not the case today. Unfortunately, the ultimate test is going to be what happens this evening. That being said, I'd still like to encourage you, if you guys are disheartened, if you feel like you just can't play the game, that the game's unfair in terms of its queue and its kick out, especially the kick out, and we'll cover more of that here in a second, note that you can try to log in today and hopefully it doesn't kick you out. In fact, if you guys have any issues, please let me know. That way I can make sure everybody here in the community is on the same page, and hopefully we obviously have a good evening going forward. Now, the thing that excites me is that I'm finally able to get through long queue times without getting kicked out. So that is the thing that I wanted to report to you, firsthand experience, that even with thousands of players in queue, I'm able to actually get through that queue. Now, it is taking a while, like 1,000, some 1,300 and plus queue. We're talking could be hours of time waiting. The issue has been this whole time is that you would get completely kicked out of the game, completely kicked out of the queue and having to start over, which is frustrating to no end. As of somebody who experienced that multiple times, I can say it's frustrating, and the only thing I can do is I can pivot. Again, we don't need to rehash previous videos on the channel right now. I just wanted to sit down and say, right now it's looking like this is positive. Now, the other question that I've been getting a lot of is, how long do I think we're going to see queue times within Final Fantasy XIV? And the answer to that question is probably not going to be one that you're going to like. I expect that we're going to see queue times within Final Fantasy XIV for a long time, for at least a couple of months. Yoshi P said that they are looking at this spring to actually be able to bring on new worlds for the game, and that's just to the nature of the supply chain effect. Whether you want to believe them or not believe them, I believe them. I trust Yoshi P. Obviously, I've been following the guy since he took over this project, and so I have a lot of faith that the guy's just straight up honest. He's going to tell you how it is, and despite how much I wish it weren't true, I'm just happy that he's telling me how it is, so I can set hopefully right expectations within my own brain. Now, that all being said, why do I think this is going to take a long time? Right now, we're seeing the convergence in a way, not like the convergence video that I did, but you should totally check out that video if you want some entertainment that's not spoilery at all. Check out the convergence video. It'll be linked as a part of the playlist description below. Enjoy. More stuff for your day today. The convergence of the surge, essentially what people call WoW refugees, but it's not just WoW players. It's like MMOs all around. Everything's kind of been shifted up this whole summer, and we've seen within the community, within Final Fantasy, during its largest content drought, one of the things that where players, active players, praise story as the main aspect, main reason you should play Final Fantasy XIV. During that drought, players have gotten creative. They've made their own content. They've made their own events, and we've seen that happen over and over again, but this is still a big part of the surge, is what I'm calling that. What we're also seeing here today is we're seeing the returning surge, two tides of players colliding, if that's a word, together in this epic of Endwalker. Now, I have yet to experience the story myself. You'll be seeing that, and we've got that scheduled actually for December the 17th is the right date when that I finally step into the expansion. So hopefully you guys want to join me on that. If you've already finished the story, I have no idea what's about to happen to me. That being said, we're seeing these two forces collide, and the game was already stretched to its limits over the summer. We already saw them turn off this summer the ability to buy the game. We've seen Endwalker already being the most pre-ordered version of the game in history. We've seen Steam charts broken for Endwalker. We continue to see Final Fantasy stake its claim as the dominant MMO RPG in the market. And the thing is that it's not even competing with the other MMORPGs. It doesn't need to. And that's one of the things that from a conversation perspective as MMOs go, it's just an interesting bit of thought that Yoshi P doesn't consider WoW his competition. Anyway, just food for thought. Let me know if you have any additional thoughts on that one. But all right, at its core, you have these two massive tides coming back together, and obviously there's going to be wait. In fact, if you're frustrated about the wait, like, I get it. It's never fun to be like, I'm paying for this game and I want to play it and I cannot, because some people, especially with the queue kickout, could not play. Now, ultimately, I'm curious to see is if you're able to get through the queues now, does this mitigate the issue? I personally think that we're going to see queue times fall, namely because people are getting into the game, and thus fear of logging out is going to stop them from actually logging out, as well as you can't necessarily play maybe 36 or 48 hours straight without having to get back into queue. So ultimately, when you think of a couple things, as people finish the story, their consumption of Final Fantasy XIV is going to maybe return to a more normal level type of gamer, one that is like playing the game but doesn't necessarily have to or just really dive in, especially like I'm assuming as you start getting into the high 80s, you're not going to want to log out because you want to finish the story, and then at some point you're going to go sleep. So I think naturally as people consume the content, we're going to see that come down, but we're still seeing this incredible surge of population, and with that still no additional servers. So I think you're going to continue to see a queue. Now that queue is going to end up becoming quite reasonable. I do expect that even into the spring, as I knock my mic around because I talk with my hands, you can't see it. You're only looking at my L's in here. As you sit here and go into the queue, I could expect to see queue times in the spring, maybe 30 minutes, something where you get off work, you go log in, you make yourself some dinner, see the family a little bit, and then by the time you're ready to play, the game's ready for you as well. So I think that's going to be something we'll see, but I don't think we're going to see a lack of queue times in Final Fantasy XIV anytime soon, because I know that in 2022, there's even bigger content, even bigger events going on. We didn't even mention the fact that Savage Raiders are actually getting a piece of content that they've been starving for since the last update they got was December 8th, 2020. So they've had to go well over a year, and as my voice fails for some random reason, well over a year since their piece of content has dropped. Then we have the Ultimate Raid. It's been even longer since we've seen a new Ultimate added to the game. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to keep people coming back and playing and having a really hopeful, good experience with Final Fantasy XIV here in the short term and in the long term. Needless to say, I think, obviously Yoshi P said we've got a 10-year plan going forward, and he's looking forward to sharing more of that information with us in 2022, obviously as we get ready for his new year letter. All right, guys. So far, I feels like we've got a good bit of progress in terms of queue issues, and the fact that I'm able to log in with large queues and not get kicked out is a nice thing. We're going to keep testing it tonight for you guys, and let me know if you run into any problems and issues. That way I can make sure that as a community here at Ginger Prime, you guys are well informed. If you have any questions, sound off below. If you want to weigh in with your own thoughts about why this is happening, sound off below. And if there's a topic you want me to hit in a future video, sound off below. All things sound off below. There we go. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and hopefully I see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
I just want to say I'm really glad you're feeling better, and I love the videos. Well, I love you too. Michelle? Shoot for the moon, and so even if you fail, you'll reach the stars. Go for the 100K subscribers. Yeah.